Hi everyone, Holly from Sophie Kids here, and I've got the pleasure today of bringing back to you a young man that I met 18 months ago. He's actually from the States, so we haven't met personally, but I listened to a podcast that he was in, and then I reached out to him. So if you haven't heard our first talk, we're going to go back over that and just hear about what Smith's been up to over the last 18 months, because he's I've watched his stuff on Instagram, and the work that he's doing is phenomenal. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to talk to you again. I remember the first time. It was just so much fun being able to talk with you and meet like-minded people. So I'm always happy to check back in. It's been a long time, and especially I think when we talked, I'd only been doing this for about 4 or 5 months. So there's been a lot of things that have happened, and I'm excited to share about it.
Cool. So you're a young man who had an experience with pornography. So do you just want, because in case people hadn't seen our last interview, do you just want to go back over how you got into what you're doing and then tell us what the future is going to look like for you?
Yeah. So I'll just start with my story here a little bit, and I like to talk about paper cuts when I do that first, because some of us have had broken bones and some of us have had stitches, but every single one of us have had that paper cut. And I remember the first time I got my paper cut. It was the first day of first grade, and I was walking in, and I was so excited to go to school. And I sit down at the yellow table, and I start talking with my friends. And then class starts, and Miss Rooney comes in, and she's like, "All right, class, we're going to introduce each other, one at a time." And so kids start standing up, saying their names, and it comes to be my turn, and I stand up, and I get really nervous, and my legs start to shake, and I had a stutter. And so I go, "Hi, my name's Smith." And right then, I'm all embarrassed and I'm mad, and I'm like, dang it, this was my one opportunity to to impress all of these people. And so I sit down, and I'm angry and I'm embarrassed. And this girl from the red table turns around and she says, "Why can't you talk right?" And I say that was my first time that I got my very first paper cut. And I think what I'm trying to get at here is that these are the paper cuts that we get on our hearts, and not the paper cuts that we get on our fingers. And with those kind of paper cuts, if you don't let them heal, and if you don't put a Band-Aid on them immediately, you keep getting more, and then it turns into a wound that's a lot harder to heal. And so life went on, and I kind of just bought into the core belief that I wasn't enough. I bought into the core belief that I was never going to make my parents proud, and that I was never going to have good friends. And then when I was 9 years old, I think that was second or third grade, I was exposed to pornography. I had just had this tablet that my parents had given me for Christmas, and they were asking me. Well, so I had this tablet, and I went onto the internet, clicked on a link that wasn't what it appeared to be, and I saw pornography. And just as backstory, my parents had talked to us about pornography, and they had asked us about like what to do, and we already had those conversations. And so I remembered them telling me, like, if you see pornography, turn it off and tell an adult. Like, so I'm like, turn it off, tell an adult. And so I'm remembering that, and so I turned this tablet off, and I think back to that first day in first grade where I didn't feel like I was enough. And I was afraid that if I told my parents that I had seen pornography, because we had talked about how bad it was, that I would disappoint them, or I would, be seen as less than in their eyes. And so I didn't want that to happen, of course. So I didn't tell them about the experience, and then it crept back into my life as a drug. At about 10, I started using it regularly and consuming it regularly, just as a way to fix all the little things that I was dealing with. It was like fake love for me. And then I got social media, and so I was able to access pornography easier. I started comparing myself to everybody on social media. I was this little chubby kid, and I'd see these guys with their washboard abs, and that wasn't me. And so I just really started to hate myself and the situation that I was in. And in 8th grade, I developed some suicidal thoughts and ideology, and ultimately found myself at 14 just severely depressed. I had made a suicide plan months before, just in a super dark spot. and then got in trouble, got in a lot of trouble. And, um, you know, my parents, there's just this huge blow up day, April 23rd, 2018. And I remember my mom coming down to me that night and she grabbed my face and she said, "Smith, I will fight for you, but you have to fight for yourself first." And so that was kind of the day that I decided to turn my life around. That was the day that I was going to become the person that I wanted to be, no matter what my past had been. Like, I wasn't going to continue on that same path. No matter how far I'd gone down the wrong path, I was going to get back onto the right one. And so that's where I came from. You know, I'd gone through all this heartache, and of course, there's people out there who I've gone through 20 years of substance abuse, and everybody has their different rock bottom, but that was really mine. You know, that was really mine, finding myself at 14, just enslaved to this content, enslaved to pornography. It was the only thing that made me feel good. Everything that I did every single day was just to numb out. It was just to kind of get to the next day. Like, survival was an accomplishment for me. And so I hit this rock bottom, and I decided that I wasn't going to allow it to control me anymore. And then just started doing a little stuff. I got into a recovery program. I got a therapist and started talking about my mental health. I started doing little things to better myself and to build myself. And so now, just for those of you watching, for those of you listening, I started my first company called Protect Strong about a year and a half ago. And I help parents who need help setting up safe tech. So I saw this huge gap where parents, my parents' generation, they didn't grow up with technology. They didn't know what that was. And they're the only generation who is doing that, yet has to parent kids who only know the digital era. And so it's this huge gap, and parents are struggling and they just can't do it because their kids are little tech ninjas. And so I help parents do that. I help them talk about porn in the house. I help them set up media guidelines and agreements and get the family on the same track. And then I have also been so fortunate to start my own nonprofit, the Live Life Bigger Foundation. And I travel around to schools and youth groups and talk about the harmful effects of social media and pornography. I talk about mental health and depression, anxiety, suicide. Really just try to inspire and empower kids to step away from their screens and to live the life that they were created to live. And then also give parents all of the resources that they need to empower their kids. And so I founded that in January of 2021. So we've just hit our 1 year birthday for the foundation, which has been exciting. It's been a huge journey, but I've loved every minute of it.
All while, can you please tell people, do you mind telling people how old you actually are now?
Yeah, so I'm 18. I had my 18th birthday in October. I'm a senior in high school, and so I go to school full time, you know, pack my lunch, go to school. And then I also do this on the side. I do it as much as I can. It's my passion, it's my hobby. And so I'm either at school doing homework, playing lacrosse, or running businesses.
You're phenomenal. I just have the utmost respect for you because, you are going to make far more impact than somebody. I work really hard to try and do the same things, educating around this sort of stuff. But when young people, they're going to relate to you so much. I just wish we could get you to Australia, to be honest. Damn COVID. So your parent course, when we talked last time, you were going to perhaps do an online course. Is it online? Can I share the link with people here in Australia?
Yeah, it's not quite, and I'll keep you updated on that, of course. So again, just some backstory on me for those of you who didn't watch the first episode. I had a mentor named Colin Karshner who was really big here in the States. He, over 2 years, he spoke to over 500,000 kids, talking about mental health and social media. And he was just amazing. He really catapulted me into this arena. And unfortunately, he passed away in October of 2020. And just a terrible loss to not only the space, but for me, him being a mentor and a friend. And so before he passed away, excuse me, away, I was really fortunate to be able to record a video workshop with him for parents and how to set up tech safely in their home. Um, we're working on getting that out. I was able to get the footage this summer. We're still working on getting that out. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with that, just with like legality stuff because he's passed away. And so I'm still working on getting that out. And I hope for it to be out actually in the next month.
Oh,
So that should be out pretty soon so that people anywhere can figure out how to set up their kids' technology safe. That should be out pretty soon. And I've also been working on some other workshops, like how parents can help their young men and young women who are struggling with porn. We're getting some of those workshops out, and that's through my company, Protect Strong. So some resources like that are really exciting. Here in person, I've been working with a company called Your Living Proof, which is a recovery service. My friend Danny Deaton, he runs that. He does a lot of intervention with drug addicts and their family. And so we're putting together an in-person parent workshop called Raising Kids in Combat. So we're having a lot of fun putting that together, just trying to get parents all the resources that they need to raise their kids in this digital crazy world. And so, of course, like I'll keep you up to date on the online workshop, and I'd love for you to share that. I'd love for people in Australia to be able to get some of those resources so that you can keep your tech ninjas in control.
definitely. It's so needed. Another thing that I've been talking about here more and more, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, parents are, very naive about what their kids are getting up to. And here, since COVID hit here in Australia, online grooming of children is up 120%. And, we've got children like around, we just had a case here in WA of a 9-year-old being groomed, being given V-Bucks or Robux in one of the games for naked pictures and stuff like that. So any tools that we can get to parents to help them keep their children safer and, be in this digital world, because like you said, they are ninjas. They know they don't have the life experiences that adults have had, but they're so tech savvy, and we have to really help them navigate this world because they just can't do it by themselves.
Oh yeah, of course. And if like what I always tell parents is that they try very hard, but there aren't enough hours in the day to, pay the bills and to go to work and to do the dishes and do the laundry and then still keep your kids safe online. So parents really just need someone else to do that work for them, which is what I've tried to do. And not only has online grooming has gone up, but I think 2021 was the biggest year ever for human sex trafficking. That increased in the States a lot. We've also seen, I was actually doing some research just barely. I'm working on a new business plan. And I was doing some research on it, and I was looking at the effects of loneliness on mental health. Just because of the COVID pandemic, like all of our kids, they're locked up, everyone's locked up. And not only have students, but adults also have reported feeling more lonely. And so I was digging into like the effects of loneliness and isolation on mental health. And what I found that was fascinating is not only is there a correlation there, but there's actually a correlation of loneliness on mental health. Sorry, not mental health, but physical health. And what I learned was people who experience more loneliness are at a 40% increase of risk of dementia. And they're also at a 30% increased risk of coronary heart diseases and strokes. And so some of the stuff, technology itself that keeps us isolated, it keeps us disconnected, is having a serious effect on not only our mental health, sex trafficking and grooming, but it's also having an effect on our physical health, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. I just want to take you back to where you talked about your parents actually had the conversation, which I hope one day I get to meet you and your family face to face, because I want to give them a big hug. Recently on Instagram, I put up in the stories a poll. Have you had a conversation with your child about pornography? Really simple, not very, sciencey, but it was 60-40 split. So 60% hadn't had a conversation, 40% had. So I messaged people to say, can you give me, why did you or why didn't you have the conversation? And, the parents, the 60% that hadn't had it said, they're too young. I don't know how to start. I don't want to turn them on to it. And all of these other things. But the parents that said they had had the conversation, all of the people that responded to me, so again, it's not very scientific, but the people that did respond to me all said they had the conversation, but it was after their child had already been exposed to it, usually at school. So, can you just talk to about, when your parents talked to you, it didn't make you go out and look for it, did it?
No, and I think that's important. Is kids they're already curious, and even if you and your family aren't talking about porn, kids at school are. They're already being introduced to this. The average age for exposure to pornography right now can be seen as low as 7 years old, and so even if it's not happening in your home, those conversations are happening nevertheless. And so it's important to have the conversations about what it is, how it affects your brain, your kid's brain, how it makes them feel, how it affects the world. And I think that there's so many amazing resources now to have the conversation early without starting conversations about sex and without starting conversations about rape culture and without starting conversations about that stuff. But there's, books like Good Pictures, Bad Pictures by Kristen Johnson, I think. And that's such a great resource for, for parents to be able to read that book to their kids, and their kids can understand the concept of pornography without having to dive deep into, the depths of it. And so I think that it's important that we start that conversation young, especially because if you have a kid who is, again, 7 years or older that has access to the internet, especially if it's untethered access, especially if they spend a lot of time home alone, their parents are at work, then it's probably not an if, it's a when question, and it's probably now. And so I think it's really important to start that conversation early. And there's resources on how to do that. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do over here. I told you about these in-person workshops. We're putting together workbooks for parents, a 7-day workbook challenge for after the in-person thing. And one of the days is all about having conversations, and we have like scripts for how to start conversations and what you should be telling your kids. And so it's really important to start with those conversations, because your kids aren't stupid, and they are being exposed to more at such a young age than you could ever picture. I mean, I remember having first conversations of of sex at first grade. And so despite whether or not it's being talked about in your home, it's being talked about at school with friends on the playground. It doesn't matter, those conversations are happening. And so the best thing that you can do as a parent proactively is to start having that conversation in your home, so that you can get the facts right on it, because there are a lot of people there are a lot of other kids that will tell your kids that porn or sex is something that it's not. And so being able to have that conversation first and get the facts straight, about what porn is, how it affects our society, how it affects our brain, talking about the fact that it affects our neural pathways, it affects our chemicals. Talking about all that stuff, I think, can help kids understand what it is, because most likely they're being told what it isn't.
And that's such a good point. We don't come at it from a religious background, or it's science. If we use science, there's no judgment there. And so I actually sell Kristen's book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. When I encourage people to buy it, I say safe pictures and unsafe pictures, because I've had conversations with her around this, and I worry that if kids hear bad, they think they're bad. I've written 2 books as well to help parents have this conversation, and I call them private pictures or private movies because it's done as part of the public and private lesson. And so, you know, books are such a great way to be able to do it because you're not face to face with your child for a start. You know, the information in both Kristen's and our books, you know, you know, they're our words, so you don't have to try and find the words. And you know, in the back of my books, I've got scripts and questions and things like that. So they're not children's books really. They're a tool for parents. So, but also, you know, I'm really glad you talked about the kids are learning it in the playground. I had a mum contact me just before Christmas, and she's given me consent to tell this story because she wants parents to learn from what happened to her daughter. 9 years of age, another girl from her school said to type in XXX on the school's iPad at school. So she's done it. It was blocked. And, you know, they obviously had some sort of filtering system. She's gone, oh, that's really strange. She's gone into Google Images and typed in the same thing and had her mind absolutely blown. The mum didn't know for 3 months. The little girl, you know, had a change in personality, was, you know, the mum knew something was wrong, but it wasn't until her daughter said to her at 9, Mummy, what's it called when you don't want to live anymore? Yeah. And so she said, oh, and then she got to the bottom of it, and, you know, this little girl was having nightmares, and I won't describe the nightmares that she was having, but it was, she'd obviously seen really graphic bestiality, basically, all on the school's iPad. And so, you know, we have to have these conversations. I believe that we need to start by 6 at the latest. And it's not about, you know, some people say, oh, why don't you call it pornography with 6-year-olds? And in our program, sometimes I can't get adults to say penis and vagina. So if they're not going to say that, they definitely don't want to talk to kids about porn. But when you call them private pictures or private movies and say, you know, if you see pictures like that, your parents told you to go and tell them. I actually used to say that, but now I say I need you to go and show an adult what you saw. If you're on an iPad, turn it over, but you must show an adult, because I think we might have talked about this last time, but in April 2020, somebody had tagged me into child exploitation material on Instagram. And I was so, you know, what they did was they'd come across some really heinous images on Instagram, didn't know what to do about it. So they put at Safe for Kids, which is me, at FBI, at Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, which is where it will end up going. I just get this random message. So I burst into tears when I opened it up because I could not believe what I was seeing. I'm sobbing away, but I still had enough wherewithal to go, right, well, I need to take a screenshot of his face, but not what he was doing, a screenshot of the Instagram account. I go back out to take a screenshot of who tagged me, but that had disappeared. I go onto our federal police and make a report. So I'm typing up and this is what was happening, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, oh, and by the way, I've got photos. I hit submit. I send it to our federal police. I then go up into our house because my office is in the bottom of our garden. And I say to my husband, and I tell him exactly what I saw. And I'm crying. I'm almost hysterical. I was just sobbing. And I finish my story, and my husband goes, oh, yeah. And I go, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. And I still have, so that was nearly 2 years ago now, I still have flashbacks about every 6 weeks or so. That picture will just pop into my head and I just burst into tears. So I look at it as a gift now, because if I couldn't articulate to my husband how bad it was, how is a child supposed to tell a parent? I mean, you know what's on there. Yeah. It's not children just can't articulate what they've seen, and kids are describing flashbacks and having nightmares, and they say they don't know that they're called flashbacks, but they say, Miss Holly, that picture just pops into my head and it makes me feel yuck and I can't sleep because of it, and things like that. So we have to have these conversations, and people say, worry that it's going to turn children onto it. We're not making it sound attractive. We're not saying, go and check this bad boy out, sort of thing. But I love the fact that we can do it with science and talk about the neuro pathways. When I'm doing this with 6-year-olds, I sit them on the floor and I get them to join their fingertips together. And I say, in your brains are amazing, and you've got all these connections. But if you see pictures of movies, people no clothes on, it changes the connections. So then I turn one hand over. It changes the connections in your brain. And I talk to them about, it releases a chemical in your brain called dopamine. I don't talk about the oxytocin and serotonin with 6-year-olds because that's just too much. But I do talk about the dopamine and say how our brain loves it, but it tricks our brain to go and look at it more and more, but it's not healthy for our brain and things like that. So we can do it in an age-appropriate way. But the fact that, your parents had done that, was it one conversation or many conversations that you had?
Yeah, well, first I want to go back just to what the story that you told about that little girl, and I think that's a really important conversation to have. And I love how you changed the narrative around good pictures and bad pictures, because the same experience happened with me where, the reason that I became suicidal was because, especially growing up as a Christian, I felt like I was a bad person and I was going to go to hell. And so, like, my reasoning was, if I'm going to go to hell, I might as well make it quick, right? And so I was in that situation, and what I realized just in a few months after finding Fight the New Drug is that I wasn't a bad kid, but I was a good kid wrapped up in horrible content, right? And so I think that's a super important idea and lesson to teach our kids. So I think that's amazing. That's definitely been a big part of my story. As far as with my parents, like, we had a conversation once a month. The second Monday of every month was our like porn talk night. And it was so consistent that my mom would be like, all right, kids, it's the second Monday. It's time to talk about pornography. And we'd be like, oh, Mom, again? Like, do we have to do it again? And it was an ongoing conversation that we had. And even through my addiction phase, like, I was right in the middle of that. And we'd have this, pornography night. And they'd ask us, when was the last time you saw pornography? What did you do? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I saw it, 3 months ago, but it was just short. And I turned the computer off, and they're like, why didn't you tell us? And I'm like, oh, sorry. And that stuff would happen when in reality, it was like, I had watched porn like 30 minutes ago, and it had been my 5th time that day. And so I think that, like, for us as a family, we had that open conversation. The thing that I think it's important for families and for parents to hear is that it's not about how consistently, of course, like, consistency is key for that, but what's even more important is how the conversation is being held. And I think there was a lot of fear around that for me. And I think that I was scared to talk about what I was going through, especially my dad was in the Army. And so it was always like ship shape around our house, and not super touchy feely. But what I tell parents to do is to set up a no trouble bubble. And this is a space in their home where their kids can come to them. And when they say, hey, can we go talk in the no trouble bubble? It's a space where they go to. For my family, it's in my parents' bedroom. And so we go to them and we can talk to our parents about anything. And the immediate reaction that we get is an 8-second hug, them telling us that they love us and asking us how they can support us in becoming the people that we want to be. And so now, I mean, that's not how it used to be, but now that's the reaction that we get when we're struggling with anything. It could be depression, it could be stress, it could be school, it could be sports, it could be friends, it could be pornography, it could, whatever it is, that's how we handle our stuff. And when you have that initial reaction of love from your parents, it's a lot easier to come back from your trial, from your slip up. It's a lot easier to bounce back from that. So I like strongly urge parents and kids, like when I go to schools, I'm like, okay, this is what you guys need to do when you get home. Set up this with your parents, and then you can know that you have an open conversation. Now, of course, and what I always tell them, in life, actions come with consequences, and with everything, there's going to be consequences. And so, just because you have that no trouble bubble where you don't get yelled at and there's no consequences immediately, that doesn't mean there's just no consequences. And so, what I always tell people is, have that conversation, react with the 8-second hug. I love you. How can we support you in becoming the best version of yourself? And then get a night's sleep, because heaven knows if you've been talking about a hard topic and you know that your kid's in pain, like, you need the rest. And what I always tell parents is that, moms and dads, you probably won't sleep that night, but let your kids sleep at least. And then the next day you can talk about consequences. You can talk about action plans on how you're going to become better. And I think that's important, just because like that initial love can do so much for kids. And I really think it can turn a struggle into a strength. And so I think that's been really important. And another thing that I'll just add in real quick is that, we really can't blame, excuse me, we really can't blame kids for the situation that they're in. And not only because like it's just a crazy world out there, but I think a lot of parents have failed today in giving kids the resources and knowledge they need to succeed in life. Because, we've been given in school, we're taught so much about science and math and all of this stuff. We're taught how to even do like financial literacy, but we're not taught about how to just do life. We're not taught about life skills and things like that. So the other thing is, start teaching your kids about life. Start teaching them about setting goals and planning in life, and start teaching them about emotions and how to handle emotions. And I think that's really important, because kids today just don't have the knowledge. They don't know what to do when they feel sad. It's so easy, if you feel sad, if you're uncomfortable, like, you just pull out your phone. I mean, all of these people listening, watching, I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, you go to the mall, you're at a hotel, you're at, whatever, your office building, and you get into the elevator with someone that you don't know, and what do you immediately do? Most likely you pull out your phone, you look down at the papers you're holding or something like that, because this technology acts as a comfort, as a support system for us when we feel uncomfortable. And unfortunately, we didn't know the effects that it would have on our younger generation when it first came out. We didn't know that it would take away our ability to understand emotion, and it would take away, it would give us all of these vices that are having serious effects like drugs on our brain. And we didn't know that, but we can't take back the fact that, over 100 million parents across the world, when the first iPad came out, handed one and put one straight into the lap of their kids. Like, that still happened, and we have to come back from that. And so now I think it's all about teaching our kids what life's really about, how to really handle emotions, how to self-reflect, and how to be okay with your thoughts.
You are phenomenal. I really do hope our paths cross one day, because I love that no trouble bubble. I'm actually gonna I'll quote you, but I'm actually going to share it with all the parents, and maybe even write a blog and then link to this this podcast and video about it, because it's just simple things like that. I mean, in our program, we teach kids, we can talk about anything, and we help them set up a safety team of 5 people they can talk to, because sometimes it might not be a parent. I don't have children of my own, but I hope that all my nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews have me on there. In fact, I know most of them do, because they just tell me some stuff that sometimes I really don't want to know. But it could be a neighbor quite often with teenage young men, I find it might be their mate's mother. So when I'm working with parents of teens, I say, you need to have this reciprocal thing going. You tell your kids' friends stuff, and then they'll tell, you have this thing, because kids, teen boys don't want to talk to their mum maybe, but maybe their mate's mum is so much cooler than their mum, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But have those.
Yeah, and I've seen that in my life a lot too. Like my parents and I haven't, like, we have a understanding that I don't like talking to them about pornography. I don't talk to them, if I slip up, they're not the person I tell. They're not my accountability partner. I have a group of young men that I go and talk to my age who are struggling with the same thing. And I have, 30 people that I know from there that I can tell they're my accountability people. And like, you're totally right. There's a ton of stuff in my life, any drama at school, any stuff about lacrosse, like any of that, I'm much more likely to talk to my best friend's mom than my mom. And so I think that's a brilliant idea, is just like, that's so crucial that, like, it doesn't have to be your parents. And that's one thing that I try to stress to kids, is like, you just need to tell someone. It needs to be someone that you trust. It needs to be somebody that will care about you, but it doesn't have to be your parents. And I was talking to a kid, this was 2 weeks ago. I was in Cedar City, and I was talking to this kid who said that he had told his dad about his pornography issue, and his dad had just flipped out at him and had just unleashed hell. And so then the kid went and had a suicide attempt, but had survived from it. And so what I told him is, like, if that's not an open conversation in your home, if you don't feel safe telling them about that, like, I'm here for you, and you have other people, you have other resources that you can go to for that. It's not like a cure-all. It's not a one and done. There are a lot of people who get support from their parents, but it's not for everyone. There's not a one size fits all when it comes to accountability and recovery.
Yeah. And parents need to know that too. If I had $1 for every parent said to me, if my child got abused, they'd tell me, or if my child saw porn, they'd tell me. No, they're not. No, they're not necessarily. And you can have a great open relationship, but those dear little people that parents tuck into bed every night sometimes think they have to parent the parent. And they don't want to be seen as uncool in their parents' eyes. And you've already, talked about that with your parents. You didn't want them to lose respect for you and things like that. So it is so complex. And for parents just to say, oh, my kid would tell me, they may not. So help them have the 5 people. And we have 5 because if the first person's busy or doesn't listen or whatever, we teach kids to keep telling until they feel safe. There's also, in Australia, we have something called the Kids Helpline. And wherever I go, every group of children, I actually physically ring the Kids Helpline with the classes. But, there are forums, aren't there, as well, like NoFap and things like that, where people can get support.
Yeah, there's, in today's world, especially with technology, there's so much accountability that you can find. And so if there's someone who isn't accepting you right there, then I think just keep going, keep finding someone, because there is somebody out there who cares, and there is somebody out there that not only cares about, like, your quality of life and you being able to overcome your struggles, but there's people out there that care that you're here and that you're alive on this earth. And so that doesn't have to be a family member. That doesn't have to be a blood relative. Just keep looking until you find somebody who cares about you, and then ask for help from them. And
that's why your story is so precious to me, because imagine if you had of all of the work that you've done, all of the lives that you've impacted. What a waste. What a waste if that young man 2 weeks ago had succeeded. Who knows what he can go on and do. But because young people in the moment want the pain to stop, they don't get that suicide is finite. They just want the bad feeling to stop. So to reach out as, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it means a lot. Yeah, I think that once again, yeah, kids see pain and they just want it to go away. But once again, we failed to teach them that pain is temporary, and that I posted something the other day that said, oftentimes you feel the most lost right before you find your path again. And like all of that pain, that's just leading you to find something better. Um, and I totally believe that that's true. And I totally believe that people were made for happiness. And if you don't like the place that you're in, then you can work to get out of it. And so, yeah, I just want to echo that like, no matter where you are in life, no matter how you're feeling, um, that's all temporary stuff. If you're willing to get back up and fight, there's the Chinese proverb that says, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. If you're willing to fall down and to stand up and to keep fighting, you can turn that pain and you can find joy from it. And I think that it's important to remember that there's opposition in all things. So there's only joy because you felt pain. And the only reason that I am as happy as I am today is because I've known what it's like to hate myself. And I've known what it's like to feel all of those things. And so now that I can look back at those times, I'm grateful for them. Like, and I talk to my parents all the time. Like, I could have saved myself so much heartache at so many points in my life if I would have just told someone, or if I would have, tried to get help. I could have saved myself so much heartache. But yet I look back today and I wouldn't have. I wouldn't go back, and I wouldn't change what happened to me, because I've been able to receive so many blessings, so much wisdom and knowledge, and I've been able to learn so much from those experiences, and I've been able to take that and help other people with it. And so I wouldn't change anything, because the only reason I feel the way I do today is because I know what it felt like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
And on that note, Smith, bless you. Thank you so much. We will catch up. Please let me know when your courses are up, because I definitely will be sharing them all over every lot of social media. I have to admit, I've just gone on to TikTok. For 4 years, I've badmouthed TikTok and Musical.ly and everything like that, but I've just gone on there, and it was a policeman actually said, Holly, get over yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be on there. So, because that's where people are, that's where children are. Unfortunately, they're not supposed to be. Yeah. But I will be sharing both this and your courses everywhere, because giving parents the tools and education is the only way we can't ban stuff, we can't block stuff, we need to educate about it. So thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Good to be on again. Good to see you again. And I hope someday I can make it down there to Australia.
Bless. Cool.